Fucking plumbers are arriving.
All right. What was I doing again? Twitter. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just linking everything. Good evening, sir. How's it going?
Who keeps texting me? Yeah. Good-ish. Goodish. Generally good. Markets. Meh.
Yeah, market's not great. This just seems quite suppressed in many ways. Obviously, this whole thing with Israel and this Hamas leader really did send the market into a tailspin, and it didn't like last for an hour. It actually lasted for like 6 to 8 hours. I mean, it seems like it's bouncing here, but yeah, it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's just always uncertainty's killer of speculation, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let me just share this, and then we'll get going. I've got that many tabs open. Right.
Are you doing Discord or MR?
Can you do Discord and I'll do Twitter?
Yeah, cool. Done.
I feel like we'll keep getting throttled when we're posting links on the main account.
Oh, really? Huh? That's interesting.
Daddy Elon wants everything to be done on Twitter.
But he is getting it on Twitter, though. Or do we? I mean, we are streaming directly onto Twitter, aren't we?
Yeah, we must diversify the distribution. All right, looks good. Let me just share it on my own, and then we'll get going. Da-da-da-da. Right. There we go. Cool. So what are we doing? How are you doing? I've just been listening to Luke's market chart. That was fucking brilliant.
Yeah, Mark, did you just finally attend Mark his chat? I mean, I know you've been super busy and I've been telling you to pop in. Did you manage to get some time to check it out?
Yeah, it was amazing. Really good.
Yeah, he's good, eh? Like, it really does give you perspective on what's going on. For those of you wondering what we're talking about the meal deal, which is the banner we're using today. It's our subscription service. It's a paid group where we share feet pics, occasional naked pics. No, just joking. We kind of take things quite seriously. There's research reports that we do. We sit down and we chat about these kind of discussions, but it's more kind of focused around individuals and what they're doing, what we're doing, our portfolios, our pains. So it's not all LARP. I mean, we do LARP occasionally when we do post the occasional win. But yeah, and then Luke's got a channel, which is essentially a market overview every day. He goes through, what he's seeing in the market, and people ask for charting on stuff, whether it's AAVE at the moment. Obviously, AAVE has shown huge strength. Maybe we can kick off the show with AAVE, as opposed to Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, it seems like DeFi has got a fire under its ass at the moment, man. It's so cool.
It certainly is. Where is it? Yeah, so the last 15-minute candle on this has just looked like, right, there's fat bid initiated. So a couple of things. Where is my KNO? So a lot happening at AAVE currently with regards to them. Look like they're finally going to turn on the fee switch, which has been a long time coming. Whether that's to do with maybe a little bit of clarity with regards to the regulatory landscape. Does that mean DeFi as a whole is going to catch a bid? But they look like they're going to start making headway now and trying to really kind of drive a lot of value back to what is an extremely promising and extremely brilliant and Lindy protocol, you know. So there's a lot happening. Obviously, I don't necessarily think Go is doing as well as everyone kind of makes out if they haven't looked into it, but the actual token seems to have been really responsive to kind of these propositions that have been put forward. So it seems to be catching a bid. Usually they run in baskets, the kind of OG DeFi basket of assets. And I believe in the next couple of days, I don't know when it is, we've got a full report that's coming out public for like DeFi Dino coins. So keep an eye on the site for that, because it's going to have a shitload of data backing it up as well. It's supposed to be a mill deal piece, but we're going to push it out for you as a bit of a taster.
So once again, Grant referring to meal deal content, our subscribers basically get those reports, obviously as part of the service that we offer, and then we occasionally share it because we're trying to entice people to join. Yes, we do want to make money, but we do believe that we are contributing some really good info that allows you guys to go out there and, you know, make informed decisions. We by no means try and spoon feed anyone. This whole exercise is to give you guys the tools to go out and, you know, kick ass on your own rules.
Yeah, I know there was something going on with AAVE V3 in collaboration with Neon, potentially take it to Solana. And then there was another recent announcement of a non-EVM code base trying to take it to Aptos. So it looks like they're really starting to expand. Without kind of sounding like a broken record, I like this idea for, if this catches a bid, so should Tap. If this catches a bid, so should KNO, in my opinion, to get the extra Solana win. I did a full video that comes out tomorrow on this channel on Solana DeFi, so I won't like go too far into like the kind of the whole thesis behind it, but yeah, I really hope this isn't just like a flash in the pan little pump and then everything goes back to shit, because memes seem to be getting absolutely hammered, absolutely destroyed. I think I've publicly said I think we're reaching peak saturation now. But you know, it's nice being able to play both sides of the fence and already having like a pretty solid understanding of what happens in the DeFi landscape. Because I guarantee there's a lot of people who have came to the market this time around that have only known memes. You know, like that was the first kind of gateway drug into the space, and there's a whole wide world out there that is beyond the craziness of what happens in those trenches.
So when you say, I mean, I want to interrogate this kind of like, it's your thesis at the end of the day, and you've obviously thought about it. And I think out of everyone in our community, I would actually propose that you led the charge in this meme coin thing, despite the fact that you still managed to stick to fundamentals around the research stuff. Not memes, obviously, but credit where credit is due. You've been very much ear to the ground. Why do you think we're reaching the top of the meme cycle, per se, in inverted commas? And does it mean that it's the end for memes? So it's a double barrel question for you.
Just to be clear, I don't think they're going away. I believe more so the winners probably for the next 12 months are potentially already on the market. There probably will be one or two that come on and just some group gets to corner the supply so much that it's just infinite bid. You kind of see that happen a lot. I think the upside potential of them is on the euthanasia roller coaster, where the cycle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the narratives get quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay. Metas get quicker and quicker, and then it's just like the game's completely open. I've spoken about this a couple of times. When there's a lot of edge to be derived, pre-pumped up fun, like even before when it was Bonk and Miro and stuff like that popping off end of 2023 and stuff like that, a lot of edge to be derived there because people didn't realize that it was a thing, and now it's a thing. Pumped up funds raking in $2.3 million a day, nearly flipped, I think, Ethereum and Solana itself as an app yesterday. it just starts to get a bit like what are we doing here? And like nothing's sustaining. Attention, liquidity, mind shares, all just getting fragmented every single day with the amount of tokens coming on online. You know, you've got make meme now and stuff like that coming where you can just launch directly on Twitter. And you've also got the Dumpy.fun that's just came out from the Solana team. That's you can short shitcoins from day one, which I'm not entirely sure if it will work, because the way it's going to work is you're effectively you'd need the other side of the market to do it, to deposit in to allow you to borrow, and you're basically just doing a kind of money market short where you'd borrow the stablecoin, sell them, and then hopefully it's at a lower price. And the APR on that will be absolutely huge. So I don't know if that works, but it seems like the game's out. You know, a couple of years back now where we got to peak fork mania, or we got to peak tomb fork mania, and like there's just groups of people that have so much edge in that space where whether it be through, I don't know, algorithms, bots, or just being like with inside prior knowledge to this kind of thing. I think the game's up. All that coincides with a lot of positive catalysts around a lot of early DeFi stuff and a lot of emerging DeFi stuff. And I don't think it's a coincidence that at the beginning of Q3, we have KNO partnering with PayPal to bring PYUSD to their lender and borrower market. JTO announces restaking and StakeNet. You've got Jupiter about to do a 30% burn, which goes live today. And then Drift Protocol announces that it's going to do a prediction market because there's no poly market token. Like, where's the like large product updates been from the DeFi sector within Solana? And now it all just comes and culminates at this huge point of confluence in Q3. Sounds to me that DeFi is going to have a little bit of a push, and people have had a little word in people's ears, and they've kind of been holding off on like these product announcements, which I'm all for, by the way. But I think Solana can really solidify itself if they just show that they're not a kind of one-trick pony. And yes, they have AI, and yes, they have Deepin, and they've attracted and did really, really well on the BD front to get a lot of these Deepin networks to come over to Solana. But if they want to stand the test of time and like push into real financial infrastructure, then they need to own DeFi as well. They can't just rest on their laurels and be at least a cycle behind what's happening on all L1s and L2s and EVM land. So that's where I'm at with it. Could be wrong.
So there's obviously quite a lot to unpack. I'm not going to like go too deep into it, but I think what I find really interesting is, you know, like you mentioned, the one-trick pony that almost certainly Solana has become, particularly over the last 6 to 8 months, and it's going to be interesting to see whether there can be kind of like an emergence of other narratives. I mean, at the moment, we all know that, I mean, these guys have made over $80 million in fees, apparently, or something like that overall, like 2.3 million a day. And it's just been absolutely like off the charts. And, you know, so that's obviously testimony to what's going on. And I think there's obviously, you know, a huge number of protocols that are busy doing stuff that aren't meme related, and I think they've probably like been a little bit frustrated, you know, whether it's kind of like dexes and all the rest of it. I'm really curious to see whether they actually emerge and show themselves in the DeFi context, particularly if ETH gets a little bit of wind on the DeFi side of things. I mean, AAVE is obviously doing DeFi a big favor here. You've been very bullish, Maker. I think for the last 5 or 6 days that you've spoken about it, and it's shown considerable strength. Luke actually spoke about the Maker chart about half an hour ago, and he was just saying, you know, this trade is just such a great trade if you had caught it down on the lows, and same with AAVE.
Textbook. It's just
pure textbook. Yeah.
Textbook trade.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see how, you know, these guys as protocols start playing out, and, you know, like their relevance in the space, and the fact that, you know, if we're going to see the big money coming in from Wall Street and the rest of it, you know, these protocols have been battle tested. They've been through DeFi summer. They've run the mill. They've run the gauntlet, and they definitely know what is what the dangers are, and people know that they're safe and they will use them.
Yeah, the Maker one's interesting on a couple of fronts. The whole sub-DAO endgame thesis by, you can kind of roughly see similarities with what's going on with Tau and subnets, and I just think there's going to be so many tokens kicking around this Maker ecosystem, and when they do the kind of the token split and the new stablecoin comes out, and when we interviewed Rune in Singapore, extremely hungover, the both of us, that's the last thing we wanted to do. But we did it. We got through it anyway. At that, I think it was like the day before, he'd mentioned that potentially the future forward for them would be their own network, their own chain, but they liked, which was contrarian at the time, they liked the setup of the SVM, the Solana virtual machine.
They did.
Vitalik immediately dumped his Maker bags on hearing that. But fast forward, what is it? 8,
A year.
10, 8, 9, yeah, nearly a year now.
It's been a year, yeah. Well, it'll be,
he
no,
was
you're
so
right,
spot
10
on
months.
with that.
10
he was
months,
so
yeah.
spot on with that, because that's what everyone wants to do now.
Yep. Yeah, he called it. Rune definitely called it. For those of you who don't know, he is the CEO, huh? He's the CEO of Maker.
Yeah, I think he's the founder and CEO, yeah.
Yeah. Quite a serious fellow, but knows his stuff, knows exactly what the vision for Maker is. You talk about investing in companies and protocols. You don't really invest in companies and protocols, you invest in the people. And I mean, he's definitely done a good job. And then obviously Hickson is effectively bragging
telling
that
me about this. I just
like, from a chart perspective, it really is something else. Like, there's so much upside here for CRV, and I'm just too scared, to be honest. I'm too scared of this thing to get involved. I think you got to be a seriously twisted individual to throw your money at this thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's up 10% on the day, but like, you just know that Mitch probably wants a new mansion, and you're allowing him to buy it.
Yeah, we don't mean to fud your bags, Hickson, but I think this thing, dude, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't like buying, and obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but like when you see people like touting Celestia, and then you go back to what's the website, like ICO Insight or some shit like that, and you can see the initial seed price and their unlocks coming up, and I'm just like, I don't care what fucking catalyst you've got coming up. I don't care if you're gonna solve world hunger. I'm not purchasing that. I literally couldn't give a shit.
That's too funny.
What else have we got? What about the new breed? Dinero had Samion still early. That came out yesterday.
How was that, by the way? I haven't had a chance to listen to the interview.
Fuck me. Like, what a job they've done. Like, so quick rundown. They had Butterfly, then they had Lock Butterfly. A couple of issues with taking a shit ton of supply off the market when you're locking it for an indefinite amount of time. You don't have a lot of tokens on the market to create a lot of volume. You need volume in charts, don't care what anyone says, and if you neglect it, you get bored people, and liquidity's only as good as the volume that's accompanied by, in my opinion. You've like now pivoted to Dinero, a cosmetic kind of token split of like 1 to 2,000. So 1, unit bias out the window. 2, switch to single-sided staking, so no like prolonged lockup. And then you've got PXETH, which is their liquid staking token, and then APXETH, which is the auto compounding version of that, where you then gain exposure to the rest of their kind of DeFi shenanigans, which they basically own Curve and Convex and all these other yield-bearing governance tokens, which grant them a shit ton of emissions and bribes every week. So you get access to that. And then the next step again is the new product with IPXETH, where they've teamed up with is it Galaxy Digital Laser and Galaxy, where they are they're offering we were laughing and calling it a fake world asset, because like a real world asset is bringing physical, I suppose, tangible yield sources on chain, whereas they're technically going the other way. So that similar sort of rails, but they're taking the on chain yield and offering it into a product that isn't an ETF. It's just a way for funds and family offices that are outside the US jurisdiction to gain exposure to the highest yielding staked ETH product on the market in IPX ETH. So a different validator set, completely siloed away from what's going on with the product. And then the real kicker, which I can imagine was the biggest pain in the ass anyone's ever had to endure to get this approved, was the performance fee they still take on IPX ETH, the institutional product, still finds its way back to staked and arrow holders. So and one of their partners is got 400 billion AUM to put it into perspective.
Just lost my earpiece. Sorry. So what you're saying
is
that,
your earpiece.
So what you're saying is that my De Niro bag is not big enough. That's what you're saying, essentially.
Yeah, kind of. I think. I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. I know there's a lot of people who seem to have a shit ton of the token. It'll just be a slow cook, in my opinion. They did a really good job to kind of, one, simplify the product and make it accessible to like the institutions that want to come in and buy. So
is this kind of like an income play? Like you buy, you hold, you generate income, and it's not really like, well, I'm going to buy and then do 100x, is it?
I think with anything that is yielding, you get some kind of people will try and kind of put it into a bucket where they can run a traditional financial model off the back of it. I do still think there's upside for what it's worth, and I still think the 14.19% currently is a pretty damn good yield, if I'm honest. But what tends to happen is when you've got kind of revenue, people tend to work backwards and then use that as the defining factor with regards to the market cap, as opposed to, it's that whole thing on Silicon Valley where he's just like, oh, we're going to go out and try and get some customers and generate revenue. And then he's like, absolutely fucking not. You're not. There's no way you're going to generate revenue. You're pre-revenue, because you can have an infinite multiple and then you can sell it on to the next investor. If you got revenue, people can kind of tie a PE ratio and like work out how much you should actually be worth. So that kind of tends to happen. But all that to be said is this is a yield that scales. So that's an aspect of it where it's not relying on additional tokens to kind of prop up that yield. So so this yield should scale as price increases as well. So that's a really kind of a very unique proposition for the DeFi space. A lot of stuff is it's the yield scales inversely with the amount of people that are purchasing the asset.
So speaking of DeFi, thoughts around one that we covered a very long time ago, and I believe that they have something coming up. I think there might be an LBP/TGE event, namely Gamma Swap. You weren't expecting me to bring that up, did you?
Yeah, fucking good one. Thanks. Not prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked what they'd originally proposed, and it's been like, this has been a real slow cooker. Like my feeling around this, and I'm actually going to be interviewing them, I'm hoping early next week, is that, you talk about dudes who like build something and they like get it out there like ASAP, and they don't really find a product market fit. My feeling around Gamma Swap is that they really have put their heads down, and I mean, you can see there's just a good, thorough like application here. Like they've really looked at all the angles. That's the feeling I get, and it's just one of those protocols that I think, if you look at it from a pure kind of like DeFi/financial perspective, I think this thing is an absolute giant in the making. Whether it gets there, I don't know. but I think everything that they've done has been spot on. Like, just that's the feeling I get. I don't know what your thoughts are on this product, but yeah, they look solid.
Yeah, I mean the team's absolutely solid. They know what they need to do for V2, which is where I kind of see the opportunity in it. If people haven't been paying attention and they look at the token and they want to purchase the token, and then they kind of have a mess around on here and not realize what's coming with V2, which we'll get something out on as soon as we have a little bit more information. But from speaking to the team, they came in and did a seminar for subs, didn't they? Not too long ago, which was really nice of them.
Yeah.
But there's a big old cook coming 2025 for these with the V2. They recognize some of the kind of shortcomings of the current product. But it is very, very, very adaptable, this. So they can kind of move with the trends. I know they've had some they did a lot of stuff with Pendle, and there's a lot of cool yield strategies to be had with Pendle, a lot of yield strategies to be had with LSTs and LRTs. So some people have been absolutely printing on there, but it is a relatively complex product. I think they will simplify it. And I think with V2, it will probably reach the heights that it's that people expect it to kind of reach. So, but yeah, it's strong team, very strong backing. So yeah, you can't, as you said at the top of the stream, you got to back people in the space, and I think these ones are like as legit as they come.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how DeFi potentially plays out this cycle, because obviously we haven't seen much of it. We haven't seen much of ETH, but obviously it doesn't necessarily have to be an ETH thing. It could be a Solana thing, but I think it's just, yeah, I think DeFi really does need to catch a little bit of wind. You've also been super, I see it's on your watch list, is JTO. Just tell us a little bit about kind of like the value proposition that they're currently bringing into the space. I don't unfortunately have exposure to this, but I know that you've been beating this drum quite a bit lately.
So there's a lot of moving parts with JTO. So like high level, JTO is a liquid staking provider that also captures MEV, and MEV operates on a very different level on Solana than it does on like Ethereum or other kind of L1s. So you might have seen a couple of weeks back the Solana Foundation were trying to kick off as many people that were on the validator set that were creating these huge MEV opportunities because of everyone maximum slippage and people getting chopped up through MEV. They've just recently, like the JTO just recently released this thing called StakeNet, which I need to have a little look into a little bit further. But like on the surface, from what I can make out, it looks like they're creating a decentralized stake pool that effectively replicates the mempool. So that's really, really interesting. I need to have a little dig into it. I might do a video on it in and of itself. The real kicker for me was the recent announcement of restaking, and then people are like, well, do you really need restaking on Solana? Yes, I think you do, because the wave of L2s that are coming to Solana, the wave of infrastructure that's coming to Solana, whether that be bridges, oracles, whatever else have you, whatever you need a distributed network for to run, why go and waste 20, 30, 40, 50% of your security budget in your own native token, which could go to zero, and then you've kind of got this kind of death spiral with regards to security on your hands? Why not leverage a shit ton of staked assets that are on Solana, remembering that Solana staked assets, the percentage of staked assets on Solana compared to Ethereum is like 3x. I think Ethereum's like 25%, and Solana's around 60, 70, so 2 to 3x. And what they're also going to do is they're going to control the full stack of individual LSDs and LRTs. So what happened with Ethereum is you got a load of LSD protocols, and then you got just like a complete shit show of a load of LRT protocols that kind of just spun up and effectively were just points farms waiting for AVSs that they could validate to kind of go live. JTO have kind of had a look at that and thought, well, we can control the whole stack and just provide like effectively the SDK or the no code kind of solution to be able to kind of, for anyone to be able to come along and then offer an LRT for your deposited staked SOL to then go and actively validate whether there's a new LT on Solana, whether there's a new decentralized order book, or there might be a decentralized oracle or a bridge. So then you kind of repipe or forget the security that's already on the network. I believe they're going to allow the AVSs to choose which collateral they can accept. So I think they might do stable coins. I know Karak are going to do stable coins. It would be quite interesting to see if they do. It could be interesting to secure a network with like an LP, like a Sol, JTO Sol LP, just to see if you can increase that depth of liquidity. That could be quite interesting. So on the surface, it's now capturing MEV. So it looks like Flashbot. It's now a liquid staking provider and maybe an LRT provider as well. So it now looks like AAVE and Lido. And then on top of it, then starting to make it look a little bit more like EigenLayer as well. So for me, that's just like at least something to pay attention to, you know, and like after them announcements and seems to be a lot of confidence around what's happening in Solana DeFi at the minute. So it just seems like a no-brainer to kind of pick up and see what happens. So there's more in the video. If anyone wants to watch it, I'll probably push it my morning tomorrow, so like 12 hours. But that, in a nutshell, is effectively it.
If you were going to make 5 DeFi Solana picks right now, which ones would they be? I mean, do you have something on the top of your head?
Yeah, I think I'd do JTO, number 1. KNO, number 2. Chart looks good. It's probably going to catch a bit off AAVE. Maybe Jupiter, because I think the last day of the airdrop claims has just finished and the 30% burn. And yes, Zuma, the final one is Drift. If that's 4, and then the 5th would be a bit outside the box, waiting for Layer 0 to fully integrate, and seeing tap over there will definitely happen within the next couple of months.
I have to go back to memes and just kind of get your thoughts around, you know, obviously this controlled process and controlled supply where I would assume it's probably the same group that are doing it. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we had kind of like accusations made, and I think substantial evidence to support that Brett was very much a controlled supply coin, and it went to 1.3 billion in a very short space of time. And then we had 2 versions of Nero, I think that's the way you pronounce it, that were launched 2 days ago. One on Solana, and then one, I think there were 2 on Solana, and then there was one on ETH. Yeah. And then the Solana one kind of crashed and burned. I think, I mean, I didn't really pay any attention to it. And then obviously the ETH one has just gone absolutely fucking mental.
The pump Nero on Solana is at 8.1 mil. The Cabal launched one's at 19.3. And then Ethereum kind of slapped them both around. The Nero and Ethereum kind of slapped them both around and said, yeah, don't forget we can kind of still do it too.
So I mean, what's interesting,
looks a little like someone's got all of 99.99% of the supply.
So I mean, I've got lots of questions around this. I mean, first of all, like right now, I don't go anywhere near this thing. Even if you have this kind of like twisted idea that this thing goes to $2 billion, it's not going to do it overnight. And if it does, it's going to take a long time. And I mean a long time by several months. That's realistically what I think will play out, if it does play out what we're saying is happening. But I don't buy it here because I'm way too scared of something like this. And it's really like, for me, it's a no-go territory. But assuming that, you know, someone does get involved in this thing for whatever crazy reason, I mean, what is the prospect for this thing? Is it a 2 billion market cap? Is it a 2x? I mean, for me, it just seems like a ridiculous gamble. And you obviously got to ask yourself the question, what is the intention behind the guys that are holding 80-90% of the supply on this thing? Is it for it to go to ridiculous levels and then unload it all? Is it a long-term savings account? I mean, how do you think these guys are going to play this thing?
Well, first of all, if there's no real smoke without fire in this industry, so someone needs to go and create a watch list on CLO, however you pronounce it, on early Brett buyers, because if there is a real cabal, they probably have some association to it. With this, if they've held it up to this point, it probably will just continue. I'm not touching it. I'm kind of salty that I missed it, but like, does it get? I don't really know. I don't really know how it plays out. It seems to have broke over that kind of those kind of markups where you just get complete jittery. But then at the same time, it's like if you are controlling a shit ton of the supply, then like you're effectively just entering up all the world in the chart. And it's like, how many people can you actually trust to control the supply without, some people who are potentially down really bad about to start making a tit of themselves?
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't touch this thing, but I found it really interesting. And like you said, the cat's out the bag. Yes, there is a reference to cat coins, but I mean, it's like the cat is out the bag. There's obviously the same crew are launching tokens and they're rinsing and repeating, and people are obviously piling in, and someone is making an obscene amount of money in this cycle. It's like the few are making it off the many. I mean, it is that is the case a lot of the time, but I think it's quite extreme this time around.
Yeah. What else have we got going on? Let's have a little look at.
I think we should chat about the new and up and comers, because you did make a statement, and I completely agree with you that, even though there will be kind of an attrition of what was a huge amount of momentum in meme coins is going to be focused on the few, and it will generally be the new ones. And I'm curious as to what you think might land up catching wind. I mean, obviously it's still a roll of the dice, but is it going to be like something like autism, which I'm shocked didn't really do well? Like, it just seemed like the perfect kind of like antidote to Retardio, but it didn't really quite happen. Obviously you think something's going to do well and it doesn't, and I'm just curious, like, where do you think the chips are going to fall potentially on a few of these?
I think people probably consolidate into the stuff that survived, like mini intracycle cycles, like your Popcats, your Whiffs, your what else have you got in that kind of basket?
Would you classify Brett as one of those? Because it's doing volume, it's got a big market cap, it's clearly not going anywhere. Is it a question of not maybe, but when they're going to land up taking that thing to zero, if they do have that supply?
Well, it's like,
and no, I don't have a bag. I'm just super curious.
It's kind of like the inverse of what everyone's getting pissed off about with, like,
it is
low float, high FDV. So if you can effectively control a drastic amount of supply of a meme coin that runs on very little liquidity, like $2.5 million worth of liquidity for a $1.22 billion market cap coin, and you can corner a lot of that supply and run it up to like at this point, you're effectively defending that $1 billion market cap as opposed to trying to work up towards it. So as long as you can kind of, if you're very savvy with how much is getting taken out and getting sold into the volume that's coming in from the buy side every single day, then, and you can maintain the defense of said area on the chart, then it's kind of what it is kind of what like these low circulating supply, high FDV assets do. So they try and get the unit cost of the asset as high as physically possible, and then kind of worry about the supply dynamics that are going on in the market after that. Nobody wins in that situation, apart from like your early backers that have probably got better terms than you, and they're just going to go as soon as they get the supply and just fucking nuke that shit, because the unit cost of the asset is a lot higher than it should be because of the high FTV, as opposed to people trying to actually do the right thing and run something up from a fucking, you know, a lower market cap and then start to kind of build from there. It's lazy in my opinion. It's like, right, we'll rely on people not understanding market dynamics, as opposed to actually going out and fucking trying to build something over the long term.
Then there's also kind of like that other like giant polar bear in the room, and that's the volume that gets generated on these charts, and kind of like the manipulation and the game that gets played around that, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, how much of the volume that you're seeing on a brand new coin is real and what isn't, and generally it isn't, just so that you know. And if you're wondering, you know, like if it was, I can assure you 90% of the time, if not 98% of the time, it's not real. You know, and then you'll find something like, you know, that's at a 2 mil market cap, but it's done 12 million in volume. And it's like, when you see that, if you didn't get in at sub 200K, there's a very good chance you are going to be taken out on a stretcher. You know, like these are the nuances like that we will probably land up writing 10-page theses on after the cycle.
So I had the Ticker Bitcoin team on the podcast today. So
that's right, dude. I forgot to ask you about that. How was that?
And honestly, that was the most enjoyable like sit down podcast with a team recording. It was Graham from Ticker Bitcoin, the thicker ticker, the people's Bitcoin.
Epic.
And we kind of went into that. Like I was asking him about kind of what I believe he used to kind of work on, like the market making side or something like that. I think he was on the other side of the fence last cycle. And I was just asking him, like, are you seeing any differences in how market makers are structuring their deals with, because like, let's face it, like the amount of new launches that are happening that quote unquote should be on like centralized exchanges have been kind of few and far between, and the ones that have launched have been pretty shit, to be honest. A lot of them down only. There's only a couple that have like stood up. So a lot of them are turning their attention to like meme coins, obviously. And then it was just like, well, how are they structuring the deal? Like, how much of the token are they typically taking? How long is the term? Like, what are the terms like? And usually from anywhere from 0.5% up to very, very, very high, but like 5% for like a regular token getting fed into like maybe distributed over a handful of market makers or one or two. And then he was saying they were going at double digits, so they were on double digits of these meme coin supplies, really, really favorable terms. So like these market makers are absolutely printing off this shit, particularly if they can help them get listed. And you only have to follow the listings really, of like who's got hold of the supply, who's got hold of the tokens. When you start seeing them get listed on certain tier 2 and certain tier 3 exchanges, you can kind of guess where the tokens have initially came from. But it's just kind of wild to see how like market makers are to change their game as well with regards to kind of getting over double digits of supply to help make markets on these kind of meme coins. And there are little, I don't know how really they probably just run a trading algorithm through the AMM to kind of wash volume through it, so it comes up, and because you can kind of like play a deck screener and you can play different kind of metrics by trying to wash trade your way through to the top of deck screener. The other way is just pay every single day to be top of deck screener. So lot of tricks of the trade there. If maybe we should do a full episode on that, although I think we talk about it quite a lot.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty cool to do an episode or two to kind of break it all down, because these are the kind of things you only really figure out, you know, over time, and they're generally quite expensive lessons. Like you think something might really be like a winner, like you're just convinced. I mean, like I still can't get over like Stanley Cup, for example. And you know, when you first like said, like you showed me like this whole campaign that they had, and I don't own any of it. I mean, I sold it. I just kind of like lost hope, and left my carcass out to dry in the noonday sun. But it was kind of like, if there was one that really deserved, in inverted commas, like a win in this market, it was Stanley. Like, it was just, sure, it's kind of like a commercial thing, but the way they've gone, and they consistently post, and they are so full on, and they're always coming up with new memes. But unfortunately, someone has got way too much of the supply, and it's just essentially, in my opinion, it's a free money exercise for them. And it's kind of like, well,
maybe that's the counter argument. So, like, the cornering of supply bashing we've just done for the past 20 minutes.
100%, dude. I mean, it's like, that's the opposite end of the spectrum, and it's like 100% the reason why I brought it up is like, you're dissing the fact that these guys have got an 80% supply. Yes, there are issues there, but then look at the other side of the spectrum. Someone's got the supply and they're dumping it at any opportunity, and then look at the pain that comes with that. You know what? Right now, if I was going to choose, I would say, you know what? If someone's got the majority of the supply and they're being responsible with it, then so be it. They can have it.
But like Mitch and Curve.
Mitch and Curve is another example of someone who you could argue isn't really managing the whole thing properly. Just maybe a combination of greed and negligence and whatever else there might be at play.
Look, you cannot be simultaneously that smart and that stupid at the same time. You just can't. Like, I understand, try and get a lot of utility for your asset, make it composable across different protocols, allow it to be used for lending and borrowing. But like, having CRV as an asset that has like an inflation schedule of 30 years and there's more supply that comes out of the market every fortnight, used as a collateral asset against stable coins that are inside a protocol, like, who decided that was a good idea?
So Grant, just quickly bring up your watch list, and then just put it on percentage gains, and then just look at, I actually posted this in the meal deal earlier on. Like, I think this is a really good exercise to kind of like see, what's actually doing well, what isn't doing well, and what's just outright struggling. Your watch list isn't as extensive as mine, so maybe we can share mine, unless you've got another folder with pretty much everything in it.
Yeah, I've got a different tab there. Do you want to drive?
Yeah, I can drive. But I think the point that
you just steal this a second. I just need to check the door. 2 seconds.
No worries. Yeah, your dog's running rampant. Okay, no worries. Let me just find this for everyone who's listening. So, okay, so just in terms of like what I was thinking on my side is kind of like, okay, well, these are my levels on Bitcoin. We didn't really go through, the status on Bitcoin. But yeah, it seems like we've had a clear bounce off that area of support, and yeah, I mean, it looks quite convincing. A lot of people were actually looking at this area down here at 60K, or between 60 and 62K, from a TA saying, this is kind of like an area of demand, but it's obviously found a bounce here, and it'll be really interesting to see, what it does from this point onwards. I think it's quite precarious in terms of what we're seeing in Bitcoin. At the moment, we've got this whole kind of macro scenario with Israel and Iran's now saying that they want to get stuck in, and I don't know if it's just kind of like, waving a stick around, or whether they're serious about it. But I think it's the reason why we had obviously that move last night and this morning. And then just coming to kind of like I don't know if you can see that. But I think what's relevant here is obviously, like, for some bizarre reason, CRV is doing really well, but then IOs as well. Like, let's just go on a percentage. So obviously these are the weak ones. Let's go. NVIDIA. Did you see what NVIDIA did yesterday, dude? It went sub 100, and then it did an 18% move in a space of an hour and a half.
Is that because Pelosi's just recently bought?
I don't know, dude. It was just insane. Like, Just
She's
completely
actually bought more, isn't she?
yeah, she bought more.
She's the buy wall.
She's the buy wall. And now pre-market, okay, so it didn't go
Yep.
below 100. Sorry, I thought it did go. But pre-market, it's already at 120, pretty much 119. So anyways, I'm getting into TradeFund. I don't want to do that. But like CRV, AAVE, NIA's doing really well. I mean,
Nia's a pretty good bet. We need to get the research team briefed on doing something.
I mean,
with
check
Nia.
this chart out, dude.
Because of
This
its
chart
AI.
is so sick. Like, it's just really like looking like it wants to do something. I don't know, dude. I think this thing is going to send at some point. Maybe here. I like Nia.
Get a higher low and run from there, though. That'd be nice.
Yeah. So if we do get a DeFi season of some sort, I mean, this is something to put on your watch list. Tier, like a lot of people kind of like, like we're looking at this thing and saying, well, it's done. I don't think it's done. I think this thing's going to land up finding a whole lot of freaking momentum.
Well, the Eclipse just launched its mainnet, well, kind of devnet mainnet kind of thing, and there seems to be a shitload of blobs that are getting posted to Celestia at the minute. So you're probably going to see some really nice metrics, some nice kind of vanity metrics and analytics that pop up from what's going on Celestia at the minute.
I have to ask you this question.
I can't buy it, knowing how up everyone else is. I just can't. It might be for a swing, but it just makes me feel a bit sick.
Dude, how's this recovery on this chart?
Shit.
I mean, seriously.
What was that? Was that the past couple of days? Was that the Coinbase? Coinbase selling their bags.
This thing has been on an upward trend for quite a few days now. I mean, it's kind of like the last 4 weeks, it's just been up only. This is good tech. Like, this thing is good tech. It's got all the right ingredients. It's also, what the interesting thing about AOs is, it's kind of like you got some serious big brands running behind it, and I don't believe that they put enough effort into their community, like the community side of things. But from a tech perspective, they've got their shit together big time. I managed to sell the top on this thing. I didn't reload because it wasn't on my radar, and I'm regretting that I didn't, because I know that this is good tech. Very good tech.
Yeah, that'd have been a good buy, that.
Missed this one.
Like people are speculating maybe this pullback and a bit of uncertainty is coming with how well Kamala is polling as well.
Correct.
I don't know how much to read into that. I'd just sound like a fucking idiot if I started talking about that kind of shit, because I have absolutely no idea. But
so Comp had this interesting little thing play out this week, where one of the guys landed up getting the majority of the votes. He could give himself 500K, and then they landed up negotiating that he didn't do that, and they came to some kind of an agreement. I don't know the exact details, but I think it's been a
if you bring up the website and go on news.
Go for it. Do you want to drive? I'll take this off. You can go.
Yeah, so I think Lavina covered it. So where is it?
Daniel, I don't think it's over. Daniel's asking if it's over again, exclamation, question mark. I don't think it's over again. I think what's going on right now is that you're getting shakeouts, and it's just, we've seen this before. People need to get very depressed. They need to be on the brink of giving up, and then it sends. And it's doing it again, and it will continue to do it. Am I unhappy? Yes, I am. Is it over? No, not a chance, sir. No ways is it over.
Yeah, so Humpy and the Golden Boys. Sounds like a 60s soul band or something, doesn't it? Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. Yeah, so they cornered like a shit ton of the supply, and then they were putting forth like ridiculous kind of governance proposals, but they've came to a conclusion to kind of activate the fee switch, I believe. But I'm all for this. Like if people who have spent a while holding a token, or if they feel as if they can effectively push a governance forward, what kind of looks like a bit of a hostile takeover in traditional world, isn't that what it's for? Isn't that like the underlying value of a governance, a valueless governance token should be like, well, how much does it cost to sway the supply? If you look at Uniswap and Andreessen and Wormhole, they just come in to fucking sway the votes to suit their whim, to kind of add to the kind of whole overall tech stack in the space. So then it's like, well, if you really want to say of what's happening, then you're gonna have to go and buy the token off the open market and then have your say and like rally around some other people that believe in what you're trying to profess as well. So I don't know. I like it personally. It might have been a headache, but I don't think teams can just rest on their laurels like this. Particularly, we had last cycle a lot of risk-free value raids. A lot of groups going around doing that. Teams sat on huge treasuries, and then go and buy a load of token up, and then getting them to dissolve the treasury for like an arbitrage profit. And then, like, if teams have sat around with a finger up their ass, then like more of this needs to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I also quite like it, because I do believe that, like, in order for us to progress beyond governments and all of this stuff, we need this kind of thing. Like, we need decentralization, and decentralization needs to have its own way of operating. And this is just one way that we've discovered. And there's a lot of it that I don't like, that I don't enjoy. I didn't particularly like the way that the Arbitrum STIP program worked, because that was very political, but at least it was political in the decentralized space, and it was a good starting point. And this is just more of that, it's kind of like testing those boundaries. And I mean, I'm all for that kind of stuff, and more of it, please. Let's figure stuff out. Let's constantly, scratch our heads and see what the brave new world looks like, as opposed to just resorting to the usual bullshit, So I think you wouldn't have liked it if you were the one who didn't want what they were doing, but I suppose it works both ways. The double-edged sword.
So I missed Meadfish's question. I think it's purely case by case dependent, based on what the initial supply dynamics are as well. So the question was, anyone's listening, a sort of related question: what do you think a decent percentage of the supply to be split between market makers, centralized exchange, and LP? People get pissed off if LPs not like initial starting at least 10% of market cap, where I think good kind of ballpark. I think when we laughing at how high the top one was, isn't it like 7 million and 7 million in LP or something?
7 million, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 7 mil market cap.
With regards to market makers and centralized exchange, this fucking mouse. Market makers, centralized exchanges, it depends. Like in the early days, if you want like a collection of market makers, if you want backup, if you want like for whatever reason you want to kind of see if you can kind of play people off to get the best deal across them. And then with regards to centralized exchanges, I think it's very much pay to play now. I know Binance takes a very, very, very hefty portion of a lot of token supplies. Very, very, very rarely will they go to the market and then say a new coin to launch today has 11% going to market makers LP and say, fuck.
So the tap liquidity pool is 5.4 mil.
So you're saying a new coin launch at day has 11% going to market makers, LPs, centralized exchanges. So what, like roughly, what's that? 3.5% each. Depends how many market makers you've got as well. You're gonna need this. You need leave enough meat on the bone for them to do well as well, or the whole thing just comes crashing down. And then you also need like trusted, reliable centralized exchanges, which are getting more and more difficult to list on. Good luck getting listed on Coinbase. But I don't know. It really is case by case basis. Depends. It totally depends on the vesting schedules as well. like the team wants the highest token price as well. Like, not to the point where it's like spiked so high that they've made a rod for their own back, and then people are buying in at the top, and then they're actually fucked and they don't have any runway left. Like, they need to be like sensible about it. You don't like have a, I don't know, $1 starting price, $2 strike, and then go and run it up to like $100, because that's just not good for anyone, because market makers get to then exercise the option at $2 to sell then. So I don't know. Maybe we should open a market making firm.
Well, that's what Geordie did. That's what Geordie does. Selene Capital. I mean, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen that interview, it's definitely worth watching.
Cracks me up, man.
Oh, that's too funny. Meatfish, the most vocal member of our community. Complete retrobate.
He makes me laugh.
If you haven't watched the Geordie interview that I did with him, it's definitely worth a watch. It's pretty cool.
He's a good dude. Smart.
Yeah, I mean, like, smart, and just, he's a good guy, smart. Like, he sees the game. He wants to kind of like share the love as well. Like, that was actually quite obvious for me as well. Like, he really does like see the whole like gamification aspect of what we do, and that's what he's been trying to do. Well, he has done it on Mantle. The only reason why that thing isn't completely and utterly going straight into fucking Alpha Centauri one-way ticket is because everyone's focused on other stuff. But what he's done with this whole puff thing, and you know, with these NFTs that they just minted, and this whole thing has just been so cool. Like, so cool on so many levels. It's been amazing to see. And it's a shame that it hasn't gotten nearly the enough traction that it would have gotten if there was a proper DeFi season. But I think the method's been sound, the engagement's been good for those who stuck around, and I've actually really enjoyed it. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you never know. It could have like a bit of a strong comeback with everything that's happening recently. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. You can only see where the powers back be in the market. Has anything else happened interesting, or do you want to wrap it up?
No, it's been kind of like, be patient, I suppose, and don't lose your mind, and don't overtrade. I think that's probably the biggest danger you can do in this market, is just overtrade too much. I don't know. I didn't really experience that, but I suppose I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like them.
I think you have to just take the piss out of absolutely everything in this space, because like people claiming that they know what the end game of the space is, don't trust those people with fucking as far as you can throw them, because they're liars. Like, if they say like Ethereum in its current form is the end game for like to bring all financial applications on chain, and they say that with absolutely no leeway either side, or equally if people say it's the same about Solana, run a fucking mile, because those people are disingenuous.
Yeah, I think there's many roads to what will be the space, and what will be the space we don't really know. But I don't think it's going to be Solana or Ethereum or whatever it might be. I think there's going to be many iterations thereof. We've got Bitcoin DeFi now. We've got so much going on. Who knows where we land up? But I'm definitely here for the ride, and I'm definitely here to enjoy it for the most part, in between getting wrecked, of course.
Yeah, you get like one day of like euphoria, and then a month of wanting to jump off a bridge. We're going to be doing, it's not released yet, but keep your eye on it. It's apply, and then we will select people, because there's only a certain amount of budget for our event in DevCon in Bangkok. Expect lots of drinks, maybe we might feed you as well, but it's going to be held at a really, really, really good venue with some tunes playing. We're going to try and get a panel on, only for like 25 minutes or something, though. I know everyone wants to socialize and get wrecked, so we'll do that. But keep an eye on it. If you're a sub or LARP holder, then obviously you get first dibs, and then it goes out to the wider audience. And then we might do something in Singapore as well, but we need to get our arse into gear to sort that. If anyone's going to be around for Token, then Breakpoint, and then DevCon after in Bangkok.
November. Yeah, so I mean, I think we are going to do something in Singapore. We've actually had a number of people, protocols contact us and say, do you want to co-host? So there's definitely something on the cook. I haven't actually had a chance to tell you, Grant, but there have been a couple of cool kids that, for some bizarre reason, think that we're cool kids as well. They obviously didn't get the memo that we aren't, but we'll ride their coattails and take
They didn't do the homework, obviously.
No, clearly not. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to be the therapy session that we needed after yesterday's fucking disaster session. No, we can't afford private jets because we're too busy getting wrecked. We're a long way from that. If we ever get there, we'll try our best. But as long as we're here, we're obviously winning more than we're losing. When we vanish, then we've either gone broke or we've done the bank heist and robbed everyone of all their money. I'm not sure who we're going to rob, but anyways, we'll probably still be around for a long time.
Rob AAVE of all their money.
Dude,
yeah, all right.
Dudes, thank you. Pass.
All right. Bye. See ya.